start by giving a brief overview of your work and your most recent books.
There are no tiaras in my book, but there's a lot of popcorn and Sour Patch Kids on the floor. This book is not yet rated. It takes place in a movie theater in Minneapolis. Perhaps you've heard of that place. Did anybody ever go to the Oak Street Cinema when it was open? Oh, there's like one person, 2 people. I used to work there when I got out of college. It was a tiny indie theater. It showed weird movies. It showed retrospectives of directors. And I worked there with the strangest group of people imaginable. The projector was always trying to convince me to get a new side hustle as someone doing professional sleep studies. So like where you would go and sleep and they would like hook up like suckers to you and like measure your brain waves or something. I don't know.
Suckers?
I don't know. What do they call those? Leeches? No, I don't know what they were. And then there was like somebody there who was in some kind of like avant-garde performance art piece that I never quite understood, where I think she was like an anarchist cheerleader. So I decided to write a book about the time when I was working at that movie theater. It's a fictional character. The basic idea is that the Green Street Cinema, which is sort of similar to the Oak Street Cinema, but I took some artistic liberties, is being torn down in order to build new condos for snobby rich college kids. And they are trying to save the theater from being razed. Ethan is kind of like the leader of this pack of misfits, and also a friend of his has just moved back to town, and it's a childhood friend, a girl named Raina, who actually became a child star in the movies when she was young, and so they're also reconnecting, and she's going to try to help him out. So it's a love letter to the movies, and it's also about a sort of friendship where one person obsesses about movies and the other person is in the movies. And if you like movies, especially weird movies, you'll probably like existing in the universe of this book for a while. Yeah.
All your books draw on historical research and contemporary research. And I'm just curious, for each of you, where do you start with your research, and then how do you weave it in with the actual storytelling?
I'll go ahead. Sure. I watched a lot of movies, which is what I do anyway. But the other, I guess, the one part of research that I did was I was also researching kind of the most famous like indie movie theaters, and I was reading a lot about famous movie theaters in France, and thinking about in the 60s when there were like giant protests around like sort of shutting down of historic cinemas, and so way into the book. But the most fun part of my research was I discovered this movie called Rubber. Has anybody ever seen this movie? This is a movie about a car tire that destroys people, that makes people's heads explode. Have you seen this before? Okay, there you go. So in seeking out, I was trying to seek out like the strangest movies I could find, basically, because I was thinking like, what would these guys want to have for like their midnight movies? And I don't necessarily want to do ones that everybody's heard of. So I found Rubber, and I mean, you can just watch like clips of it on YouTube. I hate to say that, you should watch the whole movie, it's pretty good. But if you want to get the gist, watch the clips on YouTube. It's a car tire who blows up people's minds with psychic powers. I think that was the best part of my research.
So are the movies in your book actual, like, B, C, D, whatever you call them, movies, or did you invent movies for your novel?
I did both.
Okay.
So they're real movies, but the movies that Raina is in are fake.
Okay.
Yeah, so like the main movie that she's in, it's called, so this was funny to me at the time, and now that I have to explain it in a microphone, it feels different somehow. It's called Time Zap, and it's a movie about time-traveling cats, which is like the movie franchise that like made her a star. So I invented that movie, and that was a lot of fun. And I actually still I could probably write the script. It appears in bits and pieces in the book, but yeah.
So that'll be your next project.
Exactly. Look Time Zap in 3D coming to a theater near you in 2021.
I hope that goes viral and happens. So this panel is technically specifically about YA. Is YA for everyone? Which I can answer that yes. We all, as an adult reader of YA, would do. But I'm curious for you guys, how did you get started writing YA, and what keeps you in that age range?
Can I go? I have thoughts right away. I started writing YA by mistake, which is no offense taken to the genre, because I completely realized that's probably what I should have been writing before. My first book, The House of Tomorrow, was an adult coming-of-age novel. So it's about teenagers, but it's written in such a way that I thought I was writing, quote-unquote adult literary fiction. I think if that book were to come out now, I imagine that it would be released as a YA book. Because I think in that time, the landscape has kind of shifted, and a lot of those books that have younger protagonists, I think have kind of found their way into that genre in order to reach readers of that same age. And so I thought I was doing.
I'm curious to hear about your process for writing each of your books and how they came into fruition from your head to the page.
I feel like the process for every one of my books has been completely different. The first one, The House of Tomorrow, was based on something that my wife overheard at a party. She was just talking to someone and the person said, well, as a person who lives in a geodesic dome with his grandmother, and I was like, what? She was like, who was that guy? And for some reason I went home that night and I started researching geodesic domes and Buckminster Fuller, the creator of the geodesic dome, and I eventually came up with the idea for my first book. I was at that time really desperate for a book idea because I'd just totally given up on the book I was working on before. But that's almost like a strange anecdotal, like out of thin air mystery. The second book was based on something really personal that happened to me about someone that I knew online who committed suicide, and like never really knowing them in real life, but just knowing them online. And I was sort of very much writing toward that. And then this one is probably the most autobiographical, in which I just wanted to capture the time in my life where I felt like I had this really weird work family, and what that's like, and having your first work family. Yeah, I'll just briefly add to that, which is that I think that something that I like about YA, and that in terms of your question, is that the problems that teenagers are dealing with, which sometimes might seem like they're being over-dramatized in some way from an adult point of view, are given the sort of dignity of the way they feel when you're that age. Where it in some ways feels condescending to me to say that like this is just a teenage problem or something. When you're that age, it's a problem, and it's something that's controlling your life. But I like the way that like YA kind of leans into that and like gives characters in those situations like a certain amount of dignity and humanity, and like validates that the problems that teenagers face are real problems. And so I think like that's part of the way it works, at least for me in this genre.
Thank you, Julie, Catherine, and Peter, for a fantastic conversation. Thank you guys for being a great audience. Thank you guys.